How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to my Battlefield 3 weapon guide video series. Today we're going to take a look at another support weapon and another Back to Karkin DLC weapon in the form of the QBB-95, which is the big brother to the Type 95 or QBZ-95 rifle. Unlocking this weapon is pretty easy. Out of all the assignments, it's one of the easiest to complete. It's the assignment named Let It Rain, and all you have to do to complete this assignment is get 20 kills with LMGs, which is pretty easy. You can get that in just one game, as well as 2 mortar kills, which again is pretty easy. I got mine just by getting some payback on some pesky MAV hijacking snipers who had made their way up onto the bypass on Tehran Highway. But despite its cheap Chinese origins, this weapon is actually pretty good in game, so let's make a start by taking a look at some of its general stats and features. Overall, the power is pretty high, but it's not the highest damage LMGs out of its category. We've got other weapons like the M240B and the PKP, which have higher damage figures, whereas the QBB-95 has the usual 25 to 17 figures, like the majority of LMGs in the support category. One of the best features of this weapon is its low recoil pattern. When you compare it to even some of the assault rifles or carbines, the recoil overall is very low, especially when you equip the grip attachment. This makes firing off those never-ending rounds from the LMGs pretty easy with the QBB-95, and that you can keep your shots on target without the muzzle drifting off into the sky. The capacity of the weapon is pretty unusual in that you only get 75 rounds in the magazine, but the QBB-95 comes along with the extended mags by default, which increases the magazine size to 100 rounds, which is the standard figure for most of the LMGs. 75 rounds though is plenty enough to blaze down most groups of bad guys, and it's obviously still at an advantage over the M27 and the RPK, the default weapons in the support kit. And depending on your personal preference, the rate of fire could be either good or bad in that it's 650 rounds per minute, which is pretty average. 650 rounds per minute does help keep that recoil down, and that the steady rate of shots helps you stay on target. But on the contrary, a slow rate of fire means you're at a little bit of a disadvantage against those higher rate of fire assault rifles like the FAMAS and the AEK. Those weapons are usually able to get their 4 to 6 shots to kill you out much quicker than you can get your shots out to kill them. We've got weapons like the M249, which does have an 800 rounds per minute fire rate, which is much faster, but you do kind of sacrifice the recoil a little bit more, and that the muzzle does climb a lot more than it does on the QBB-95. So I definitely see this weapon as more of a run and gun type LMG. It's definitely one to use when attacking. With the help of the foregrip, you can often use this weapon much like an assault rifle, in that you can run around and get your shots on target pretty fast, and kind of just make the most of that higher capacity than the assault rifles, and that you don't have to reload quite as often. So let's move on and take a look at my recommendations of configuration of your QBB-95. First up, for the optic, I'd go with the Cobra red dot sight, but you don't get this attachment until after 70 kills. The plain old Cobra red dot sight just replaces those iron sights as a non-magnifying gun sight. So the optics you get before this are the PKAS holographic sight, which is a good choice until you unlock the Cobra red dot sight. The pretty large window of the holographic sight is quite handy in tracking your targets, but the overall size of the thing I found just took up too much screen real estate, and I'd often miss bad guys who were standing right next to me. By default, the QBB-95 comes with the 12 times ballistic scope, which I didn't really use that much, but the 12 times ballistic scope and the infrared scopes and the other high zoom optics could be a pretty good fit with this weapon, since it's got a low recoil, especially if you equip the bipod with it, which also comes attached by default. But like I've mentioned in previous guides, I'm personally more of a mobile player, so I like to go with the foregrip. Foregrip just helps decrease that recoil a little bit more by eliminating that horizontal recoil, and you get the foregrip after 30 kills. And finally, for the secondary attachment, we've got the choice of either the extended mags, laser sight, tactical light, flash suppressor or suppressor. Unusually for this weapon, the extended mags attachment comes by default, so you can use this weapon straight out of the box with 100 rounds to spare. I personally stuck with the extended mags as the attachment of choice for the secondary slot, right up until I unlocked the suppressor. I really didn't find much of a use for the laser sight, the tactical light or the flash suppressor, but the suppressor did come in pretty handy in some games, and it kept me off the radar. I did get some good clips with it. Unfortunately, you don't get the suppressor until after 80 kills, so it's pretty late on, and you do kind of sacrifice that overall capacity a little bit, in that you've only got 75 rounds to spare as opposed to 100. But if you consider that the extended mags attachment increases the other LMG's capacity to 200 rounds, it doesn't seem quite as worthwhile on the QBB-95 in that it only gives you that extra 25 rounds. So that's about it for my guide to the QBB-95. Let me know how you've gotten on with this weapon down in the comments. I'm sure it's one of the first ones that you all unlocked as part of the Back to Karkin DLC weapons. If you did enjoy my guide or learned anything new, please drop me a thumbs up to help share this video with others. Don't forget to check out the link to the playlist down in the description in case you've missed any previous episodes. If you want a heads up on latest uploads of mine, you can follow me on either Twitter or my new Facebook page. As always, links to those are down in the description. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you all later.